And now to talk about our module of the week, let's turn it over to Martin Anderson-Klutz, a senior solutions engineer at Acquia and a maintainer of a number of Drupal modules of his own. Martin, what do you have for us this week?
Thanks, Nick. Have you ever wanted to get detailed performance data for the pages on your Drupal sites? There's a module for that. It's called WebProfiler, and it was created in January of 2014 by Luca Lusso of Italy, who was a guest on this show in episode 425. Has a 10.1.5 version available, which works with Drupal versions 10.1.2 or newer. Is actively maintained. In fact, that latest release just came out on February 1st of this year. It has security and test coverage and doesn't have much in the way of documentation, but the module is largely a wrapper for the Symfony Web Profiler bundle, which has its own section in the Symfony documentation. It has 36 open issues, 13 of which are bugs, which is pretty good considering it's in use by 477 sites, according to Drupal.org. Now, once the module is installed, it adds a toolbar to the bottom of your site, within which it will show a variety of data for every page. Things like the route and controller that are in use, memory usage for the page, the amount of time to load if you do some additional setup. It can show the number of AJAX requests, the number of queries that were run, and the total query time, the number of blocks visible, how many forms are on the page, and so on. It can also quick link out to a variety of other detailed information that are stored in reports. Now, reports are actually saved into the database so that you can dig through additional details such as request information like access metadata, cookies, session info, and server parameters, in addition to the request and response headers. All of the queries that ran, how long each of those queries took, and even a quick way to create an explain statement to get deeper insight from your database engine. You can also view all of the services available, and with single click, open the class file of that service in the IDE of your choice. This module is a handy alternative to other performance monitoring tools like XHProf, either as a Drupal module or installed directly into your development environment, or commercial tools like Blackfire or New Relic. So let's talk about Web Profiler.
So I don't know if I've used this module specifically or if it was XHProf, but I remember it being quite a chore to set up. How would you rate the difficulty of setting this module up nowadays and seeing it compared to tools like New Relic?
So I think you're probably thinking, Nick, of XHProf, which, similar to Xdebug, is sort of environment specific and can be sort of fiddly to not only set up but keep running as other parts of the environment get updated over time. This one is more straightforward. I think there are some issues in the queue around sort of, I don't know, for lack of a better word, paper cuts that people have run into with some different kinds of, fatal errors and things. And so I've heard some people say running the dev version of the module may be more reliable in some cases, but, it's one of those things you'll just have to see if you encounter errors and then try and find corresponding issues.
Okay.
I would say it's pretty easy to set up. Luca's book, the Modernizing Drupal 10 Theme Development, actually did like a whole deep dive into it. And is one reason I was a big fan of the book is it wasn't just about theme development. It showed a lot of these tools, like using Web Profiler to see what's going on in a page. And I think even helps with a lot of like theme development, like enhancing Twig debug. And it seemed really easy to use. In fact, I was like, oh yeah, I should be using this more. Like instead of just being an Xdebug nerd and always going down into the nethers of the code, it's like I could be using this module to quickly get the bird's eye view instead of always going for like a deeper, more complicated tool.
I'll have to check this out. I mean, it sounds like a really nice way to get it locally too, whereas like Blackfire, New Relic, usually you have to have on an external, on a host somewhere. I mean, you can't set them up locally, but I don't think I've ever done that for a client.
They cost money.
Yeah.
Is this something I was thinking if you can run as well on production, like New Relic, or is like the implications in terms of performance that you should never do that?
I would never run this on production because it does implement a traceable event dispatcher. I believe that's the right terms there. So that way, when an event is dispatched and kind of goes throughout the system, it's tracked and then that's reported. So it does slow down the site because it's adding a lot more tracing and observability into Drupal itself. Whereas that's where New Relic and Blackfire would give you insight into a production environment less overhead. But like you could technically flip it on quick and go view a page in production. Like something's not making sense if you don't have other tools available. It's a lot better than copying to a staging environment and writing like var export somewhere and doing debugging that way.
Yeah,
As
makes sense.
as a side note, you can learn more about Luca's book in Talking Drupal 425. We'll have a link in the show notes.
Awesome. Thank you, Martin. As always, you got another great module of the week. And if somebody has a suggestion or would like to ask questions about previous modules of the week, it's the best way for them to get in touch with you.
Thanks, Nick. We're always happy to get nominations for module of the week in the Talking Drupal channel of Drupal Slack, but folks can also reach out to me directly on all the social and Drupal platforms as ManClue.